What if history was written differently? What if the most defining war in American history didn't end the way we remember it? Imagine a world where the Confederacy didn't lose, where slavery still existed, and America remained divided for generations. Where would we be today if the Confederate States of America had emerged victorious? This isn't a tale of alternate history for the sake of fantasy. This is a real, terrifying possibility that came closer to reality than we'd like to admit. Today we delve into an alternate timeline, a world where the Confederacy won the Civil War. The United States, as we know it, never existed. The brink of war in 1860, America was a nation teetering on the edge of destruction. The South, with its agrarian economy, relied heavily on slavery. The North, growing more industrial and abolitionist, wanted change, a future where slavery had no place. When Abraham Lincoln was elected president, the South saw it as a death sentence for their way of life. Within months, 11 Southern states seceded from the Union and formed the Confederate States of America. They elected Jefferson Davis as their president and set their sights on independence. The war that followed wasn't just about states' rights. It was about the right to enslave. The North, under Lincoln, fought to preserve the Union, believing that a united America could overcome its differences. But here's the twist. What if the South had won? What if the Confederacy had succeeded in their fight for independence? A close call. The Confederacy wasn't just fighting to preserve slavery. They were fighting for survival. Their survival meant defending their way of life, the plantation economy, the Southern aristocracy, and the institution of slavery itself. And they came shockingly close to winning. Confederate generals like Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson were tactical geniuses. They knew the terrain, they knew how to inspire their soldiers, and most importantly, they knew how to hold their ground. While the Union was better equipped and had more resources, the South was fighting a defensive war. They didn't need to conquer the North. They just needed to survive long enough to make the Union realize that victory was impossible. The war's turning point came in 1863 at Gettysburg, one of the bloodiest battles in American history. In our history, the Union won. But in this alternate timeline, what if Robert E. Lee had been victorious? What if the Confederate Army had marched into Washington, D.C.? What if they captured the Capitol and forced Lincoln to negotiate peace? In this new world, the Union sues for peace. Lincoln is forced out of office. The Confederacy, standing victorious, demands that slavery remain protected forever. Peace and division. The year's 1864. The Confederate States of America stands triumphant. The Union, now severely weakened and divided, agrees to a peace treaty. The South is granted its independence, and the country is split into two nations. The Union, with its more industrialized economy, becomes an isolated state in the international community. It struggles to rebuild, its leadership fractured, its economy uncertain. The Confederacy, with its agricultural backbone, maintains its grip on slavery. The Confederate Constitution guarantees the preservation of slavery, enshrining it as a permanent institution. By 1865, two separate nations exist within the territory we once called the United States: the Confederate States of America and the Union of Northern States. But the consequences of this division are far-reaching. A changing world. As the decades pass, the Confederacy begins to consolidate its power. They expand westward, taking control of more territories like Texas and Arizona. Slavery spreads across these new lands, with black people forced into bondage. Internationally, the Confederacy faces increasing isolation. The world watches in horror as slavery becomes entrenched and global abolitionist movements rise in opposition. Despite this, European powers like Britain and France continue to trade with the Confederacy, drawn to its wealth from cotton and tobacco. Meanwhile, the Union struggles to find its place. Without the South, it can't maintain the same economic power. The abolition of slavery leads to an uncertain future. By the 20th century, the Confederacy remains a powerful force, but at a great cost. Its economy, rooted in slavery, stagnates. Its inability to innovate leads to global isolation. The South becomes a pariah state, viewed as morally bankrupt by the rest of the world. The Union, though more industrialized, is also left weakened and divided. It becomes a shadow of the former United States, struggling to adapt to a world where it has lost its former southern half. The impact of division. This alternate reality, the absence of a unified America, has rippled across the globe. Without the strength of the United States, World War I and World War II play out differently. Other global powers rise in influence. The Soviet Union, Germany, even China. The world struggles with empires, rising dictatorships, and global conflict. But the most profound impact is at home. Slavery continues. The African American population suffers for generations. Civil rights movements are delayed by decades, perhaps centuries. And as history marches on, people continue to ask the same question. What if the Confederacy hadn't won? The moral and social progress of America was delayed, possibly forever. The world would never be the same. History is fragile. A few battles, a few decisions, a single moment in time, and everything can change. The Confederacy winning the Civil War would have altered not only the fate of America, but the entire world. We often take for granted how far we've come, but it's important to remember it could have gone the other way. We must never forget the lessons of the past, because history in the end is written by the victors.